Welcome to From the Couch Sports Talk Radio, the true definition of armchair quarterbacks. The two brothers express their highly inaccurate opinions about sporting news from chairs. Wait, they don't even have a couch? That's a dumb title. Anyhow. The views expressed by the hosts are only opinions, and any stated facts are purely coincidental. Sit back and enjoy yourself. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff and Dave.
And everybody, it is Wednesday. It is Football Roundtable. It's just me and Jeff right now.
We fired everybody else after they were talking shit all day about Diggs. We were like, man, fuck y'all, can't come back on the show. It's just back to me and Dave.
That's right. Now, Sean will be here shortly. Katie can't make it tonight. Eric might make it later. But, Paul, to your question, you think me and Jeff are crying about Allen not having wide receivers? The answer is nope. We are not. Was I shocked that they traded Diggs? Jeff, were you shocked?
Yeah, I was shocked. And look, we feel differently. I am upset we don't have Diggs. I love Diggs. I don't care about athletes off the court. I off the field, off the end. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter if Shohei Ohtani bet and gambled it. I don't care if the Barry Bonds injected steroids into his forehead. I don't care. I just don't care about stuff like that. And Diggs with all the stuff, I don't care. I like Diggs. I liked him in Minnesota. I like him in Buffalo. I'm going to like him in Texas. I'm shocked that he got traded, David, because of the fact that, again, there's no difference between me being shocked about Diggs's dead cap hit at $31 million and Denver Broncos Russell Wilson taking a dead cap at $85 million. It's excessive. Both are records for the position, right? So I am surprised because of that, because I know Eric will say, I knew it, bro. I knew it. And that's cool. He can, and that's fine. He knew it. But I don't really know what's going on in the locker room. I don't care. I mean, I really don't, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Diggs trade, I don't like the compensation, but I guess I get the fact that there's monetary thought process behind it. So this pick equals that thing, and this team takes on this dollar and blah, blah, blah. But a second round pick next year doesn't help us this year with Diggs. With him being gone, and then giving up a 6th round this pick and a 6th round this year and a 5th next year, it just seems excessive to me that we had to give picks with Diggs in order to get something in return. But that's just my thought, Dave. Initially, I don't know that. Like I said, I don't know the
Paul says Allen was a different quarterback with Diggs. Well, okay, to be honest,
then what?
Yeah, it should. You're right, but here's the deal. Allen was a different quarterback with Diggs, but Allen's also a different quarterback today than he was when he first got Diggs. Okay?
Yeah,
you got to remember, Allen as a rookie, Allen's wide receiver selection was Kelvin Benjamin and Zay Jones and Robert Foster. The following year, it was John Brown and Zay Jones and Robert Foster.
And Cole Beasley.
No, the year after was Cole Beasley and John Brown. Cole Beasley came 2 years. Cole Beasley came the year before Diggs, I believe. So, yeah. So his first 2 years, his wide receiver room was different. Yeah. But Josh Allen has also matured as a quarterback. And judging by if you look at the statistics of the Buffalo Bills season just last year, from weeks 11 through 18, Stephon Diggs had 36 receptions for 639 yards and 1 touchdown. And we were 6-1 in those games. Prior to that, we were 5-5. So do I believe that Josh Allen can survive without a Stephon Diggs?
Hey,
sure,
real quick. Hold on. I just want to point this out. Diggs played 4 seasons in Buffalo.
Yeah, the COVID season.
Hey, hold on. 4 years in Buffalo. 3 years. Year 3 is when he got Beasley and Brown. at year one. No, Beasley and Brown came in the same season, Dave.
Oh, then that was 2019.
Right, year two. So first year he went from having 2,000 yards with Kelvin Benjamin and
Ray Jones.
whatever. The next year with Beasley and Brown, he went to 3,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then the year after, it was a huge leapfrog to 4,500 yards. And he also leapfrogged from 10 touchdowns, 20 touchdowns to 37 with Diggs. I mean, there's a significant jump. You're right. But I'll tell you, to your point, Dave, to your point, the dude grew, right? And he showed vast improvement from Kelvin Benjamin and nobody to Brown and Beasley to Diggs, Brown, and Beasley, right? I mean, it wasn't even Diggs, Brown, and Beasley. I think they let Brown go that first year that Diggs got there. And it was Brown, Diggs, Beasley, and was it Gabe Davis that year? I don't even remember.
I think so.
But bottom line is, yeah, I mean, it's Diggs' value, right? Diggs' value, but Diggs had most yards, most receptions, most targets with Allen as well. So they both grew. I mean, don't get me wrong, Diggs was a 1,000-yard receiver in Minnesota. He was a league leader in Buffalo. It's different, right? So there was benefit. Now, here's my thought, and we'll just leave it at that because it's just a thought. Bottom line is, David will make mention, and David's correct 100% of the time when it comes to this shit, right? Brandon Beane, I'm not overly ecstatic about the dude, but I think he's a good GM. I'm never going to be overly ecstatic about Sean McDermott as a coach, but at the end of the day, a Stephon Diggs trade on April, 3rd?
Yep.
A Stephon Diggs trade on April 3rd didn't matriculate April 2nd and then pull the trigger on April 3rd and call it a day, right? Whatever process it took to trade Diggs came along with a replacement for Diggs. And so whatever that thought process may be, I'm not privy to that thought process. I'm sure the world will see at some point, because I do not believe wholeheartedly that the idea is going to the start of the season with this wide receiver core and adding a receiver or two in the draft. I don't believe for the life of me that is what will happen. If it does happen, we'll see, right? But
and I'll say this, Jeff. Look at everybody in Minnesota was up in arms when they traded Stephon Diggs to Buffalo. Well, in that trade, they got Buffalo's 22nd pick in the first round. And saying that, they drafted Justin Jefferson, who argumentatively is one of the, if not the best receiver in football right this moment.
Okay. Hey, David, sneezing sucks. Just want to throw that out there. Sneezing, it sucks. I sneezed, and I just want to let you know that.
I know it does. I got you. So again, like I say, yes, this trade happened. They've been talking about it for the last couple weeks. Things got serious. Things got serious within the last week or so, and they decided to pull the trigger. And my thing is this: I'm not going to be one of those Bills fans who burns their jersey and does some stupid crap, because here's the deal. Brandon Beane always has a plan. And if that plan is to move up in the draft and take a Malik Neighbors or somebody, if that's what his plan is, that's what his plan is going to be. But he has a plan. The plan is not to trade away Stephon Diggs, hold on to all these picks, pick the guy at 28, and go into the season. Okay, he had to get rid of his defense. He had to get rid of his core of his veteran players. Okay, and he filled those players very nicely in free agency. So,
hey, Dave, real quick. So,
hi, Sean.
What's up, Sean? That's what I wanted to do, is say real quick, Sean. Nice to see you, buddy. I'm going to bounce out, Sean. I actually got some things to do, so I can't stay. So I was kind of just holding a seat until you got here, so you and Davey could talk, and that'll be good. But and then wait for Eric, because he should be on here shortly. But my thing is this, right? If Brandon Beane made this trade with the thought or plan to trade up to grab X receiver, I will be livid. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Hope is not a real course of action. And what I mean by that is if we're talking on April 3rd about the draft that's happening in 3 weeks or whatever it is, a couple weeks away, 3-4 weeks, whatever the date is, you can talk to any team that's in that top 10 now. And everybody's talking to the top 10 team now. On the day of the draft, if an offer that was going to be offered on April 3rd is trumped on draft day and you lose out on that thought, I'll be angry. Because those aren't guaranteed. I mean, I know they talk, all the GMs talk, and they just had the owners meetings, all the owners, everybody was here. I mean, in Orlando, I say here, but like just down the street. So I know that all that stuff gets worked out there. I would tell you that my belief is just like Major League Baseball, Dave, is when the owners meetings happen in January or in December for the owners meetings, a lot of times, not this year, it was kind of slow, but a lot of times in those owner meetings, during those meetings and weeks after, there are some huge deals that get done because of the conversations that happen at those meetings. Just like this is a conversation that had to have happened at that meeting. So I'm saying that to say that there should be, and I wouldn't be surprised, and it's probably going to be after the 1st of June because of the cap space and all that other stuff that has to get worked out based on the $10 million that's freed up with Trey White after post June 1 post stuff, whatever. If there's it's not a free agent signing, this is going to be a T. Higgins, AJ Brown. This is going to be a Justin Jefferson. This is going to be a Brandon Ayuk, in my opinion. That's what I'm thinking. And now if they trade and got, I don't know, George Pickens, I'd be pissed, right? I mean, I'm using him as a guy, or Zay Jones, or insert someone else that I don't believe is in that top tier, because the bottom line for me is I don't believe in any kind of way there was a conversation between Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and Josh Allen that said something like this. Hey, we're going to get rid of arguably a top 5 receiver. We'll give him top 10. He was number 13 in yards this year, so it's not like he was a top 5 guy there. We're going to get rid of this guy, and then you're just going to be dealing with the 3 dudes we're talking about and whatever rookie we get. I don't believe that to be a reality at all. I don't think that goes over well for a team, especially when building. But, you know, I don't know. Would you allow an A.J. Brown trade from the Eagles to the Bills? Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, but again, I think an A.J. Brown trade to the Bills would be great. I mean, I think it'd be fine. I don't think he's a Diggs replacement. I don't think A.J. Brown has nearly the route running ability that Josh Allen does, or excuse me, Stephon Diggs does, but he's a big target. The bottom line for me, David, anybody listening, right, is if you have a true number one, who's a true number one, right? You got to really consider who's a true number one. George Pickens is a true number one, as much as I bust his balls. A.J. Brown's a true number one. Stephon Diggs, go down the list. I mean, Devontae Adams is a true number one. The dude on the Jets, the young kid, Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, sure.
Garrett Wilson is true. And if you have a true number one, not a conglomeration of multiple number 3s that make up a wide receiver room like we currently have, right? There's benefit to having a true number one because it makes your 2, 3, and 4 guys amazing. Because, like, that's what – and I'm going to say this last thing and I'm going to jump off, but it was completely baffling at the end of the year. Before this, I mean, everybody was blowing up about Diggs. I mean, I know Sean talks about Diggs, and not you, Sean, excuse me. I meant Eric. Eric yaps about all this shit about how Diggs sucks, but then he's like, oh, you guys are bad now. Why, motherfucker? They suck. He sucks, so it doesn't hurt Buffalo any, right? It does, because he is a true number one. But people were constantly saying, look at Shakir. He's doing all this stuff. We don't need Diggs. But if you're not a real football fan, if you just casually watch the game and you say, well, the stats line up to Shakir being a better receiver, well, then you really don't know the game, because the fact is that Diggs is taking the number one receiver. There's safety help on the side, and a lot of times the nickel back slides into coverage into Diggs, so there's no slot. And Diggs is making that shit happen with 3 guys basically around him. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, you got Shakir, who's got one-on-one coverage with a linebacker, a third or fourth string nickel guy or whatever, not even a great corner, and he plays in between the lines. No different than when Wes Welker or Tony Amendola or Even Julian Edelman, right? They were never number ones. They were just able to take space because someone was drawing coverage. That's what they don't understand. So maybe Shakir develops into a number one. I don't know. It's too early in his career. He's a small guy. I don't know. I don't think he's as skilled as AB. AB is a very skilled small guy, right?
Well, Shakir is not a number one receiver. No, we have no number one receiver on our team.
Yeah,
and like I say, my point is, you have to. I mean, I'm going to use Pittsburgh as an example, not because of Eric, but it's a very simple fact. Pittsburgh had AJ Brown or Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. Antonio Brown became an issue. They moved on from Antonio Brown. Insert Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster is not a number one receiver. He didn't command the coverage. He didn't have to have coverage. You could play him one-on-one, and you were still allowed to stack the box. There was no player in that passing game that defensive backs, safeties, or anybody feared. And it hurt the Steelers because of that. And Buffalo right now, today, is in that situation. You have a bunch of 2s and 3s. You don't have a number one. You're right.
And that'll change. I mean, that'll change. I'm interested in what that change looks like, right? But it is what it is. I'm not overly concerned today. Now, listen, to Sean, to Eric's point, to everybody's point. If we're sitting here and kickoff's gonna, like, if it's like 12:55 Eastern Standard Time on kickoff day, and this is what our receiving roster looks like, I'll be a little nervous until they start playing, right? Because they still, the one thing that we take out of consideration is that you have 2 receiving tight ends. There's other weapons, right? Which I don't want to have an offense that is driven by Dalton Kincaid, right? I mean, that's not my thing, right? Or Dawson Knox. But at the end of the day, we do have some weapons, right? I just know in my mind. And oh, by the way, Anthony, you say drafting a receiver in their first pick. Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening, but again, I don't necessarily think it's a necessity if there's a plan to get a trade, if there's a trade, right? Anyway, it is what it is. What I wish, because here's what we're gonna do, Dave. We're gonna speculate. We're gonna talk. You're gonna talk. Sean's gonna talk. Eric's gonna talk. John's gonna talk. We're gonna watch Katie's going to talk. We're going to watch Twitter. We're going to watch ESPN. We're going to have all these conversations, and it's all going to be conversations of the Bean thought, right? Bean came out on a press conference. There was no profound revelation. What is Josh Allen's thoughts on this? What is the Brandon Bean and Sean McDermott issue with this?
Well, the one thing that Brandon Bean said is he said, listen, what we're doing is in the best interest of the Buffalo Bills. And so that it has to make sense for the Buffalo Bills, not for the player, not for the fans, not for the commentators, it is what is in the best interest of the Buffalo Bills as the team.
But David, see what I'm saying, and I noticed I listened to it and I read the transcript, and what I'm saying is nothing came out of that doesn't leave us to speculate why he said that, right? So what I'm saying is, and I'm not talking about the plan, George, nearly as much as I'm talking about the issue with Diggs, right? Everybody's saying it's this or that or the other thing. No one's going to talk about that. I think the only time you'll hear that is maybe in a few months if Diggs talks about it or not. But I'd love to hear what is really the situation. You know what I mean? Like why? I mean, we know why Antonio Brown got traded. I mean, that shit was live on television. Why is Diggs gone? But neither here nor there. He's gone. I will tell you this before I leave. Man, I am so sick of this racist shit, and I'm sorry. I get so aggravated, and I think that Josh Allen gets a little shit from the media, right? And here's for you that are listening. Here's what I'm trying to say. So you're tracking. So for the last year, I don't really give a damn about Bills fans because Bills fans to me are David. David's the microcosm of Bills fans. On Sunday during the game, fuck this dude. McDermott sucks, blah, blah, blah. By Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, we're all good and kosher again, and we're better, right?
Not about McDermott.
David, it doesn't matter. It's about the game itself, and that's what being on a Bills Mafia page is. That's what any Bills page is. If we win, we're doing great, and people are happy. If we lose, fire the fucking world. I get that. But what's frustrating to me is Josh Allen gets a lot of shit, not a lot of credit. He throws turnovers. I get that. But it's funny because over the last year plus, Diggs sucks. Diggs ain't worth a shit. And oh, by the way, I'm talking about the media. And they might not say the word sucks or worth a shit, but they're like, oh, he's a detriment to the team. Josh Allen he'd be hurting without Diggs, but they could replace him. Diggs doesn't show up. Diggs, it's just constant throughout the media. I kid you not. Like 45 seconds after the trade happened, all I see is how CJ Stroud is going to be so much more benefited by Diggs, and how Diggs is the light at the end of the tunnel, and he fits into CJ Stroud's game so much, and he fits into Houston's locker room so much. All this bullshit. And it's like in Buffalo, he can't fit there because there's some level of thing, right? And to me, I think I really believe it's a Josh Allen thing, the same way Lamar Jackson's looked at as he was the MVP. And I'll continue to say that because 10 years from now, we won't know why Lamar Jackson was ever the MVP this year. But all that being said, Josh Allen and Diggs just they don't have chemistry, and these things don't work out. But all of a fucking sudden, a rookie quarterback with no tape on him that fucking did great. By the way, this is not a knock on CJ Stroud because I thought he would have had an excellent rookie season, best ever. But does he do it 2 years in a row? Does he do it 3 years? Is he sustained? But it's baffling to me just how the quarterback alone is now why Diggs is such an impact into the locker room. And you're like, bro, what the fuck are you talking? I mean, I'm completely and utterly baffled by this level of media that reports this shit. And they say these things. And I'm like, it's almost like listening to Eric. Like Eric will talk like I can't wait, Sean. I'm gonna pull. I wish he was here. I'm pulling up the past last year and the year before's videos of him talking about how Russell Wilson sucked and Aaron Rodgers was washed, all that stuff, just so he can listen to it and say, based on his, Aaron Rodgers is coming back and gonna kill it, right? And Russell Wilson's amazing. And it's because it's just funny to listen to Eric. It's the same listening to the media and how they flip flop on people based on a situation in which. What agenda are you pushing? And it pisses me off. However, man,
look here like this. Okay, so George says he doesn't see that happening in Houston with him. Honestly, here's the issue: you got a track record. It happened with him in Minnesota. In Minnesota, he wore out his welcome. He asked to be out, and they accommodated him. He came to Buffalo, had 4 productive seasons. Led the league in receptions his first year, continued to have over 100 receptions, and he wore out his welcome because for whatever reason, he becomes unhappy. He becomes like, if you don't win in 2 weeks, if you don't win in 2 years, you become unhappy. Sean, did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying hello to the boy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you want to put your hand up.
I was like, Sean, here, come on. You're on.
No, I ran home to make sure I got on the podcast because I thought it was just going to be David and it was going to kill our fan base. But anyway, so I rushed home and then I sat down and I've heard this YouTube bicker back and forth about stupid shit. And so.
Hey, it's funny. Sean, I'm offended by that comment. And it's funny because the gall. Look, Sean has some level of thought that the Jets are like this ass whooping team, so he's now talking shit based on April. And I look at don't turn into Eric, Sean. Not yet. Wait till the game's played. You should be excited. I'm okay with it.
I just right now on paper, my Jets look good. Yes, you have to play the game, and I could be 4 plays and out, and then it's all over. I haven't had anything to cheer about in 10 fucking years, or 13 years, actually. So, hey, if I get a little spunky, got to give it to me a little bit.
Hey, I'm excited. Look, I'm excited for you because you remember, man, and you remember before opening kickoff last year, before Rodgers got hurt, I said, man, this is going to be a really fucking great year. Well, even if the Jets win, it's exciting, right?
I'm going to tell these guys something. The question was, who's the number 1 in Houston, him or Dell? I'm going to give you the answer. It's neither. Nico Collins is the number 1 in Houston.
No.
Nico Collins killed it last year with Tank Dell and without Tank Dell.
Bro.
And I'm just letting you know. And this is what I see as the bigger issue in Houston. It is fantastic. It is great, and every team should have the luxury. Okay. You have one football, and you have to distribute it to Tank, Nico, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz, and you sign Joe Mixon. You got 5 guys and one football, and you got to keep them all happy. And you got to make sure that your game plan doesn't get so convoluted that you're trying to keep them happy. I'm just telling you.
Pump the brakes, bro, for a second. Hold on a second. Diggs is the number 1 receiver. This ain't no fucking question. Number 2, you don't keep anybody happy. You keep number 1 receiver happy. The rest of the team will flow. Let's be real thoughtful for a second.
I am.
Hey, let's be real thoughtful for a second.
I'm going to.
Nico Collins and Tank Dell, I get it. They look at
what they did last year.
Forget Mixon and forget Diggs for a second, right? They killed it last year.
Absolutely.
Everybody's surprised. But these motherfuckers aren't generating dollars. These people aren't the big paid people. They're not sitting there with some large contract. They can say what they want.
I don't care about contract size. You are going to sit there. I don't, because here's the deal. You bring in a guy like Diggs, awesome, fantastic. Okay, in Buffalo that worked. Okay, you have brought Stephon Diggs into a situation where a Nico Collins and Tank Dell, up until his injury, were that team and did the number 1 receiver job and did all that. Now you're saying, hey, you guys aren't good enough, even though we made it to the playoffs. We're going to bring in Stephon Diggs, and that's the issue. And you got to go with so many balls.
I don't believe that. Hold on a second. I'm going to say it. I don't think that's an issue. I think that Ryans, I think he's a brilliant dude who actually is a hell of a coach. And I think that just like they didn't make it to the Super Bowl last year, at the end of the year, I'm sure he said, we're going to do things to make it and win the Super Bowl. So what are one of those things? Bringing in a number 1 receiver. Oh, by the way, what isn't Diggs doing much? Diggs hasn't been for the last year and a half or so, doing the 40-yard run down the field and catch the ball over his head. He's taking short things and taking it long, right? Because his speed and his routes and his space ability.
He can't catch a ball down the field.
He can. He dropped the ball. Don't talk shit now that he's gone, dude. Look, he's still great. Bottom line is he dropped the fucking pass. Stop being stupid. Nico Collins got behind the second, third levels of all those defenses all year long. He'll still do that. And Diggs is going to be doing what Diggs did in Buffalo. There's no difference to me. It's just a matter of what's the open shot. Hey, CJ Stroud, you did a very good job for the first half of the season not throwing interceptions. You didn't do a good job the last half of the year not throwing interceptions. Now it's about developing, making right choices. If you got Collins down the field, throw it. If you don't, you got
to that point. He did start throwing more interceptions after Tank Dell was in.
Yeah, sure, of course, because he was forcing a ball to a guy that was down the field all the time. Look, bottom line is Diggs is number 1. He's number 1, and then people will get distributed the ball, and it's okay. And Diggs will be a good teammate as long as they're winning, right? I mean, it is what it is. But bottom line for me, Dave, you said we were flying to Houston this year to watch the game. I'm not sure if I want to go anymore because look, I don't want to see Diggs in real life putting up 150 yards and 3 touchdowns against Buffalo's shredded ass defense. I mean, I don't know if it's
and I'll even wear my Diggs jersey. I ain't burning that shit, so I'll wear it. But so tell me this: if Collins is number 1, why trade for Diggs? Again, I'm not questioning Diggs' talent, and I think Diggs brings a level of that type of play to any team. I don't think, but I think, to me, and again, I think it was evident in the last 2 seasons in Buffalo. And I love Diggs, and I'm not talking down on Stephon Diggs because he's not a Bill now. I love Stephon Diggs, have his jersey. He's been, other than Josh Allen, my favorite player in the last 4 years in Buffalo. So I'm not in any way disparaging Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is 31 years old. He's lost a step. He is not. Listen, he is not the 127 catch, 1,500 yard receiver. Okay, and that's fine.
Why?
And why?
Because they didn't throw him the ball that many times to have that many receptions.
He was targeted 13 times a game. 13 times in the playoffs, he caught 3 passes.
I got it.
3 passes for 26 yards.
I understand that game, Dave. I got it. But,
Okay,
but
so
you're
it's not that
talking
he's
about
not
the
getting the
playoff
opportunity.
game. But what about the last 7 weeks of the season?
He was
wasn't
still targeted the most, and he still caught the least. Again, he still gets the targets. That's my point. Is his productivity declined? And again, when you're a Buffalo team that's going through a transition, and I'm not saying that it's not going to work in Houston. It very well could. They could blow up, lead the league in offense, lead the league in yards. C.J. Stroud with that offense could throw for 6,000 yards and 55 touchdowns. I'm not saying that is not the case. I'm not disparaging Stephon Diggs, period. And George, you're absolutely right. He probably has wanted out from Buffalo since 13 seconds, just like I wanted Sean McDermott fired as soon as he walked back in the tunnel after 13 seconds. So we don't disagree one bit in that conversation. So, but my thing is this. Buffalo is at a point where they understand where they're at with their quarterback and their salary situation. They can't afford a $45 million quarterback. They need to get younger because they need to get out of cap hell. And if I actually thought if Diggs was going to be traded this year, it would have been after June 1st. I thought that there was more of an opportunity post June 1st when the salary cap hit wasn't as bad this year that trade happened. The fact that they traded before the draft tells me that Brandon Beane is acquiring draft capital to move up in the draft or to acquire
Hey, real quick. What draft capital did he gain by getting rid of
second round pick next year? Because if you're moving up from 28 to 12,
we have a third round pick this year,
a first next year, and probably
do we have a third round pick this year?
No, we don't. So the fact
we have a sixth though, right?
We
had two.
We have 3 6 and 3 fifths. Now we have 2 fifths because we traded one this year. But the fact is, he's acquiring capital. He's either going to use it to trade for a proven number one in the trade market, or he's going to use that capital to move up in the draft into the top to get one of the top 3 or 4 receivers.
This is called speculation, folks.
Well, this is speculation. I'm deducing it based on what happened and why the trade happened April 3rd instead of June 2nd. Because to eat $31 million in cap space, you have to have a plan. That's what I'm trying to say. You had to have a plan. Whatever that plan is, okay? Like Brandon Beane said today, if you ask me if we're going to have somebody coming in the door next week and be our number one receiver, I'll probably tell you no. But he says, I'm not going to leave any stone unturned. I'm not going to stop looking to make this team better. And come September, when the season starts, we are going to be confident that we are going to field a team that is going to be competitive and play and do the things that we have to do. So maybe this year was the purge of salary to be able to do more things cap wise, because quite frankly, Von Miller's probably last year is this year. Our free agents, our defensive line, again, with the exception of Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver, are all 1-year contracts. So we're not carrying any cap money, any cap space for our defensive line into next year.
Well, that's all good. Bottom line is, that might be the most surprising trade I've seen in some time. To be 100% honest. So it is what it is. I wish him the best. I hope he kills it in Houston because I'm a huge Diggs fan. It is what it is. I am upset that he's gone. But I just want to say this, and I'm going to Sean and to you and Dave. One last thing for Eric to listen to on a recording. Just so you all folks are out there, we have a group chat, and there's the post that you've seen probably throughout our group, and there's a it's in the same thing that says Buffalo's receiving corps, and it shows Curtis Samuel, Shakir, and then the dude Hollins, whatever his name is. Yeah. And in our group, Eric shared that, and David said, still better than Pittsburgh's receiving core. and he put it in here. That's better than Pittsburgh. And Eric's like, way, way, way off. Listen, just so and I try to explain this, and since Eric's not here, I want him to be able to see this. And if he's watching it, I hope you hear it. Stop acting like Pittsburgh's receiving core is like some like top receiving core, bro. I like George Pickens. He's better than any receiver we have. I mean, I'll say that he's better than any receiver that we have on our team. But Von Jefferson, Austin, Cordell Patterson, I know that he's a skillful dude. He ain't great. So it's like we're way off, bro. We're equally as fucking stupid. I mean, and then when we sign our number one, we'll be ball back because Von Jefferson ain't shit. Austin ain't shit. And who knows what Cordero Patterson is. Jay Starrett's going to draft him in the first round because that's what he does in fantasy football for the one season that he had a good year, which is hilarious, Dave. Do you remember that? Dude drafted him in the first round. 9 years, he hadn't done shit. That year he drafted him in the first round. He like killed, like he might as well have been the NFL MVP because he killed it. I was like, God, at least Starrett. But he hasn't done shit since. Anyway, bottom line is, yeah, Pittsburgh's receiving core is not handsome at all, and it is what it is. But
George, I disagree with your statement. All right, Jeff, you take it easy.
You guys be good. Take care, Sean. We'll talk soon.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.
So, George, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think the Von Miller signing was a bust. I think the fact that he tore his ACL made it worse than what had transpired or what happened. Because in my opinion, Von Miller was doing everything that he was signed to do and then some. And unfortunately, he tore his ACL. Looking back on it, you can say it was a bust based on the signing and based on the fact that he tore his ACL and he came back last year and didn't perform. It takes a while to come back from an ACL. I think this year we'll find out if the Von Miller signing was a true bust or not. If he comes back and is back in form and doing the things that he was doing the first half of the year when he came in as a free agent until he got injured Thanksgiving against Detroit. If he plays that way, I don't think it's a bust. I'm not gonna judge it based on the half a year he played. I do believe that the contract we gave him was outlandish for a 34-year-old coming off of an ACL injury the year prior to, and then he went to the Rams and won the Super Bowl. So I believe that the money that we paid for him to be a Buffalo Bill was a little off the mark. I don't believe that it was a bust signing. If he would have stayed healthy and continued to play to the level that he was playing in the first half of the year, it probably would have been a wash, and it probably might have even been a bargain based on what the production we would have got from him. So I'm not going to say that it was a bust yet. Sean, I know you've been sitting there quiet. I know that you saw the Bills trade Diggs. So let me ask your opinion on it from an outsider, from a Jets fan, just from an outside point of view. I'll ask you your thoughts on the Stephon Diggs trade.
Okay. Well, the writing's kind of been on the wall for a while. Stephon Diggs, he is a great athlete and he's got talent, and no one is going to be able to debate that. He is a problem in the locker room, and that's why this was done. They could have restructured his contract in many different ways and alleviated some cap hit, but his relationship with the Bills, especially the locker room, and Josh Allen, kind of went back and forth. I don't think there's any huge love loss here. I think they did the right thing by getting rid of him. As far as using it for, to trade and move up in the draft, or trading for one of the receivers who are out there, really trading for the receivers, you got two options. You got Jefferson and you got A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown is just as much of a problem as Stephon Diggs. Maybe you can deal with him for a couple of years, but otherwise I wouldn't touch him. Jefferson, we can talk about. T. Higgs is out of the question. You guys keep saying T. Higgs. No way they're going to trade in division for him, where if all of a sudden Buffalo catches fire, they could kick him out of the playoffs.
No.
Ain't going to happen.
I don't necessarily buy that.
No, you're.
I don't buy that they don't do it. I mean, Buffalo traded Diggs to Houston. They're in the same conference. Buffalo and Cincy aren't in the same division, but they're in the same conference. So again, I think but
they're going to probably see each other.
But I think at the end of the day, the bottom line comes down to the compensation you get. And personally, this is my personal thought. If I'm trading for a number one receiver, I am not trading for T. Higgins because I don't believe that T. Higgins is a number one receiver. I believe T. Higgins is a amped up
excellent number two.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, Higgins is a perfect complement to a true number one, Jamar Chase. Okay, I don't believe that T. Higgins has proven that he can be the guy to be the number one. I could be very wrong. I could be very off base. But I don't believe I've seen that from him. Again, I would add one more person to your list of people that you could trade for, and that would be Brandon Ayuk. I could see the Bills maybe trying to swing a trade for Brandon Ayuk. I don't think that the compensation for an Ayuk would be as high as it would be for a Justin Jefferson or a AJ Brown. But again, because at the end of the day, Brandon Ayuk wants to get paid. The 49ers are up against cap. You appease each other. Brandon Ayuk goes to a non-conference team, still a contender, and you still get compensation going back to you to help you rebuild your youth. So where you're not paying out those big salaries. So again, it's just going to depend on the value of what Buffalo wants to give up. Oh, absolutely. I think you're talking about a second and a next year's second. I think you're talking about 2 picks. And again, we traded and got the Vikings second round pick next year, not Houston's. So I figure Buffalo will have a second round pick between the 35 to 39 range when it comes down to it, because I don't think the Vikings are going to be worth much this year. So I think they're going to finish low in the standings. I think they're going to have a top 8 pick in the draft next year. And that will give us our 33 to 40 range for a second round pick the following year. So again, I look at that as something that can enhance a trade if one needs to make one, to give them an earlier second round pick.
All right, I'm going to continue my thought now, you insensitive ass.
Sorry.
So anyway, Ayuk's out of the question. That ain't happening. Forget it. All right, so they get rid of Stephon Diggs, and their receiver room is in shambles. And that there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like at the end of the day, even Bean said, I'm not sure this trade made the Buffalo Bills any better. Well, obviously it didn't, because Diggs is an amazing receiver. Except for in the playoffs the last couple of years. But anyway, besides that, this was a necessary move in order to gain cohesion, and they're going to get somebody. I mean, anybody in their right mind is going to want to play for the Buffalo Bills, because they are a good team. And if you can go in there and, come in, especially as a number one, and there's going to be some ones or close to ones out there, you're really going to have to look at the NFC to grab a receiver. I don't think too many people in the AFC are going to be willing to trade you, knowing they're probably, if they're any good, then they could face you. At the end of it all, this was not shocking to me. I know everyone was like, when it happened, they're like, oh my God. And it wasn't shocking to me, but the compensation was absolutely shocking to me. I figured they could have gotten like a second next year and a third the following. They could have gotten something more for him, but I think what they got, like a second, and then they swapped 5th and 6th picks next year or this year or something.
They traded Diggs for a 6th round pick, a 5th round pick this year,
Right.
and a 6th round pick next year. And they traded him. They gave up a 5th this year, a 6th next year for the second round pick next year.
Okay. So it's still,
And
it's
in terms
shocking.
of compensation, I don't think that's bad because you took a dead cap hit, but you got rid of that salary. You got rid of because the $31 million cap hit, they still owed him. They still owed him in cash. No, CD's not going nowhere.
No.
CD Lamb is not getting traded.
Now, you were heading down a path there for a second. Oh God, what were you just saying about?
I was just saying the compensation because of the salary, they took on $18.5 million this year. And that's why you had to give up something more.
Okay. There's something to kind of think about.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever had a GM come out and say, we're going to take it in the shorts this year, but it's going to make us better in the future. Like Bill Belichick, after Tom Brady left and they were in all that mess, if he just said, to the owner, to the fans, like, hey, we're going to suck for a couple of years. We had a great run, 18 or 20 years of just, we're going to suck for a couple of years, but we got to get this thing going again. And it's going to take a couple of years. I, as a fan, would be like, you know what? That's okay. I would accept that. And basically what the Bills are doing is just that. They're saying this year, in my opinion, I think they're saying we're not going to be great. And I think between the Jets and Miami in this division is probably the right step back. Jets after next year done. We're going back in obscurity, and I'll be bitching about it for the next 20 years to you guys. But it was a smart move for unloading that because now it is going to free up some stuff. If they have an off year, Josh Allen is still young.
Look at here's the deal. Here's the deal. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna enlighten all of you here real quick. 2 years ago, I sat in this chair when the Kansas City Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill to Miami. And yeah, Miami gave up a ton, which I thought was stupid because it's coming back to haunt them. Okay, but they gave up a ton to get Tyreek Hill. And what did that give Miami? It gave them an early out in the playoffs. It gave them no playoffs the first year and an early out in the playoffs. They haven't won a playoff game. They made the playoffs 2 years and have lost in the first round both years. So that's what the Tyreek Hill trade did for Miami. What did the Tyreek Hill trade when everybody put a nail in Kansas City's coffin? How could you trade Tyreek Hill 2 Super Bowls in a row for Kansas City? You do not build your team around Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, CD Lamb, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown.
We get the point.
You build them around a quarterback. And as long as Josh Allen is still under center in Buffalo, your window does not close. Your team goes through your quarterback. Ask teams who have quality players but crappy quarterbacks. They don't make the playoffs, and if they do, they don't go far. Kirk Cousins, probably the highest paid quarterback over the last 8 or 9 years with guaranteed money. 1 playoff game. 1 time Minnesota made the playoffs. That is crazy. So again, my point is your elite quarterbacks are what you build around. You don't build around $40 million wide receivers. A wide receiver on your team is not going to get you into the playoffs. It's going to help. It is absolutely going to help. But the Jets last year, they lost Aaron Rodgers. They still had Aaron Lazard. They still had everybody that they brought in for Aaron Rodgers to be successful. What didn't the Jets have? A quarterback. So it didn't matter, and it doesn't matter without that quarterback. Okay, just like Eric said, Pittsburgh goes out and signs a washed Russell Wilson. All of a sudden, Eric says Pittsburgh's going to Super Bowl now. They're going to win 12 games in that division. Why? Why? What do they have? They have the quarterback, the same wide receivers, same running back, the same defense, add Patrick Queen. And you're telling me this team in the AFC North is a 12-win team and Super Bowl bound? For what? You had a guy who hasn't taken the team to the playoffs in 3 years in Russell Wilson. You trade for Justin Fields, who hasn't won anything in the NFL, and you start talking about a Super Bowl? I mean, talk about an overreaction. Just like the Stephon Diggs not being in Buffalo, does that lower the expectations of the Buffalo Bills a little bit? Does that change the makeup of their receiving room? Absolutely does. But here's the deal. You have Josh Allen. You have a Dawson Knox who can catch the football. You have a Dalton Kincaid who was a rookie and caught 72 passes last year. You have James Cook. You have Curtis Samuel, who in my estimation is a number 2 receiver based on the quarterbacks that he's had throwing him the ball and the production he's had in every place he's gone. Okay. Khalil Shakir, a number 2, number 3 guy. Nobody's expecting him to be a number 1, and I don't expect him to be a number 1. That's not the role that he's going to fill. But you have Josh Allen. And as long as you have Josh Allen, just like as long as Kansas City, they didn't trade Patrick Mahomes to Miami, they traded Tyreek Hill. As long as you have a Patrick Mahomes, you have the opportunity and your window is open. So the overreaction of Stephon.
You don't have a Patrick Mahomes.
Huh?
You don't have a Patrick Mahomes.
I know we have a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen, from a physical standpoint, from everything that he can do, you can look any way you want. You can look at. I'm not being a Bills fan right now. I am being one of the many people in the media who will sit here and tell you Josh Allen is probably the most athletic, gifted quarterback to ever play the game. And I'm not saying that it translates into Super Bowls. It hasn't. I'm not saying it translates to Super Bowls. I'm not talking about that. You're right. But, okay, the same people who talk about that are the same people who give an MVP award to Lamar Jackson. All right? Because he's the MVP. Why was Lamar Jackson the MVP? My point is this. You have a generational quarterback in Josh Allen, and everybody who sits there and when you say something like that takes their eyes and goes like this. 30 other NFL general managers would take Josh Allen in a second. Really? The Jets wouldn't take Josh Allen over Aaron Rodgers today? Yes, they would.
Oh, fuck, man. This same conversation.
No, I'm telling you. I'm telling you a fact. You can dispute it, but what would you do if Josh Allen was a New York Jet? What if Joe did?
Okay, wait. You okay. First of all, Josh Allen is a great quarterback. Would I take Josh Allen right now compared to where Aaron Rodgers was at the same age? Aaron Rodgers all fucking day, man. Without a doubt, all fucking day.
I don't know.
He is better in every category.
Aaron Rodgers had the benefit of sitting behind Joe or Brett Favre for 4 years.
So yeah, big fucking deal.
Makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, it makes a lot of difference.
When you look at Green Bay in the last 35 years, they've had 3 starting quarterbacks. Three quarterbacks.
Yeah, because they know how to fucking draft unlike the goddamn Jets.
And yeah, they've had Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love in 35 years. 3 starting quarterbacks.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
That's great. And I understand that. But here's the deal. All I'm saying to you is this. The Stephon Diggs trade was huge. It's a loss for Buffalo, no doubt about it. I have no doubt about it. Stephon Diggs is a great wide receiver. Okay, I get it. I'm not even. It's not even about Josh Allen.
It was a good move.
I'm talking about the window As long as you have a quarterback of that caliber on your team, your window's never closed. My personal opinion, no, Sean, I'll tell you, my personal opinion, our window could be wide open if we had the right coach. We don't have the right coach. 13 seconds proved we don't have the right coach. With that,
I'm not going to debate that at all.
We don't have the right.
You're right.
But again, this isn't about the Bills team itself. All I'm saying is this: the Diggs trade was huge, but to the Bills Mafia and people out there panicking, Brandon Beane does what Brandon Beane does. The trade was not done because Stephon Diggs tweeted something the night before that said whatever he said about the
you want to go talk about
think so or whatever he said. But my point is this trade happened. It happened for a while. It was talked about for a while. And they didn't do this trade without having a plan in place. Whatever that plan is, whether it's trying to trade for a veteran, number one, whether it's going up in the draft and maybe drafting 2 wide receivers in the first round and second round, whatever their plan is, they have a plan. And the one thing about Brandon Beane, I'll say about 80% of the time, 80%, his draft picks, especially later rounds, his draft picks usually hit pretty good. I mean, he's had a couple misses, like the Kyrie Lamb in the first round 2 years ago. I don't know. We'll see if they actually allow him to play. The fact that you took a guy who covers man, George, you weren't up on. I don't know if you were up on X this morning, but oh my God, I thought people were going to die. I thought people on X were going to melt down, and there's a guy on there burning his Stephon Diggs jersey. I think that's stupid. The fact is Stephon Diggs is a great receiver, and I wish him all the luck in Houston. And I think Houston is doing really good things offensively and defensively. They're probably a team that, like I said last year when we were talking about Houston, I expected them to pick first overall. The fact that they have warp speed their rebuild or whatever it was. So the fact that they warp sped all of that, and now not only have they revamped their defense and added Daniel Hunter to the defense to go opposite of Will Anderson. Now you got Joe Mixon. You have, their team is loaded. And that is, listen, Mahomes is the best QB. He is today. And he's got the rings to prove it. I do not one bit. I have said Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I'm talking about from an athletic standpoint. Oh, I have.
Did you just say Josh Allen was the best quarterback in football?
I said he's the best overall athlete. I didn't say he was the best quarterback.
Oh.
I said he was the best overall athlete. He can do everything from running, throwing. He can do everything. So, no, I don't. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I am not arguing that point one bit. I will never not say that. He's got the rings to prove it. Okay. But again, from this trade standpoint, Buffalo has a plan, and they will execute that plan whenever that is. My surprise for this trade, like I said, was not that Stephon Diggs got traded, unlike Jeffrey, who was surprised. My surprise was when they did it. I thought they would have done it post June 1st, but they wanted the draft compensation now. And that tells me that they're planning on using the draft compensation they got now, not June 1st. They plan on using it at the draft to do whatever they have to do to get to where they want to get the guy they actually want to get. Whether that's Malik Neighbors, whether it's Roman Duze, whether it's Brian Thomas Jr. Now they have the capital going into the draft that if that's what they want to do and go young and cheap because you have a $50 million quarterback, you can't have $100 million tied up between two players. It's just not feasible in the NFL with the salary cap. So they wanted to get this trade done, eat the money. and so be it.
It was the right move. It was the right move at this time.
I absolutely do. I absolutely.
They're going to pick up somebody.
Mhm.
But just this whole thing, it's been an hour, so we can move off of it now.
Well, that's the big news of the day. So you gotta cover it, man. You gotta cover it.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
We gotta cover it for an hour though. And Mike, Eric had to do something. I'm hoping he'll be back here. He'll be on. Jeff was on earlier, and KD had something going on, so he couldn't be here. Jeff was on for like a half hour early. So George wants to ask a question. Let me ask this. If and when we had the chance to have Patty and we got him, would he be the Patty that he is if he was a Bill? Absolutely 100% not. Not. Because what Patty had is the best offensive coach in football in Andy Reid. And that offense, we did not have a Travis Kelce. We did not have a Tyreek Hill. We did not have the ability or the opportunity to have Patrick Mahomes sit behind an Alex Smith in his rookie year. So he would not have been the same Patrick Mahomes. Would he have been good? Absolutely. Would he have been able to do things that Buffalo? I think Buffalo would have welcomed him as a savior because we hadn't had a quarterback of that caliber since Jim Kelly. But I believe that Patrick Mahomes would be the Patrick Mahomes that he is today, doing the things and have 3 Super Bowl victories? No, I don't. Because again, I believe our coaching is awful. I think we have the worst situational coach in the NFL. I think we have a coach who is a great defensive mind, could be a great defensive coordinator, but is a horrible game situational guy. He does not have the ability in the 6 years that he's been here, has not shown me the ability that he can handle every duty that a head coach is supposed to handle. He calls timeouts at the most inopportune times. He gives teams with no timeouts 3 free timeouts at the end of a game. He plays a defense that allows Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and whoever the hell else sucks the opportunity to drive down the field in the last minute of a game when they've done nothing. He does not attack. He doesn't do the things nearly what he should do as a head coach. And for me, that is the Bills' biggest detriment. And just as a Bills fan off the cuff, but Patrick Mahomes would have had success here, no doubt about it, especially if we would have done the other things, getting him a Stephon Diggs doing that. But again, I think Travis Kelce is a huge benefit to Patrick Mahomes. He's that outlet. He's that safety guy. And we never had a Travis Kelce here. We do now with Dalton Kincaid. Hopefully, I'm not going to say Dalton Kincaid and Travis Kelce are here because they're not. But at least we have that guy who has that ability to become that guy. But again, Mahomes would have been good here. I don't think he would have been what he is not playing in Kansas City. Sean, let me ask you, what do you think?
He would not have won 3 Super Bowls if he was in Buffalo. But the problem is I don't know about Josh Allen's study habits. The one thing I do know about Patrick Mahomes is, like they all say, he is like every spare second of the day, he's watching game film. He's, studying everything. And that's what it takes to be a great quarterback. Because the game of football is so cerebral, and you have like 3/4 a second to a second to make a decision. And man, it could be like this guy has, you see his 1 foot, in front of the defender, and like, okay, now we got to go to him. I don't know. If you switched Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, would Josh Allen have 3 Super Bowls right now?
I think so. Yeah, I do. I think so because again, I look at it. I look at the system. I look at the way they play the game. They're both excellent. They're both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are probably the two elite quarterbacks in this league. And I don't care what anybody says. That's my opinion. And I'm entitled to my opinion, and I'll say that. The difference between those two guys is the quality of the head coach and coaching staff.
I totally agree with you. The Bills, the best thing they could do is get a new coaching staff in there. Unfortunately, I think it's going to happen after this year. They're going to suck, and then they can release them and not worry about any backlash. But I don't think many Buffalo fans would have any backlash. But getting some new blood in there, you had all the tools, and yes, you had some bad luck.
Sure,
but you are 100% right.
It's bad coaching.
And I totally agree with that because I'm watching Sean, at the end of games, going, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?"
Right.
I'm just an idiot sitting at home who's drunk, drinking beers and eating pizza and wings, watching your game. But I still know you shouldn't have done it.
And Corral, I agree with you. I love Jordan Love too. I want to see him do it more than 1 year, but I do agree with you. I think Jordan Love he has that look that he's got what it takes. But again, I want to see him do it again. The same with CJ Stroud that we talk about. Me and Jeffrey, and Jeffrey more so than anybody else here, we talked about Jalen Hurts, and Jeffrey said, yeah, Jalen Hurts, they put him last year in the top 3. They put him ahead of Josh Allen. And Jeffrey said, how do you put Jalen Hurts in that group? He's done it 1 year. Let me see him do it in year 2. And that was a failure. The 6-game losing streak, the complete meltdown of Philadelphia. I'm not going to put it all on Jalen Hurts. Obviously, they had issues, whatever those issues were, whether it's A.J. Brown, the locker room, the coach, whatever happened, Philadelphia had it. But I agree with you about Jordan Love. I love Jordan Love. I liked him. Jeffrey didn't. I said that I like Jordan Love. He argued with me about Jordan Love, but I love Jordan Love. And if I can see the same thing I saw from Jordan Love last year that I see from him now, I can agree with you that he's going to be in that conversation. Joe Burrow, yeah, Jeffrey, you're right. Joe Burrow is elite. I forgot to put him into that tier. Yeah, and you're right. Hurts did have good stats last year, but I think the quality of a leader on your team and the quality of what you get out of your players on a team, I think that's where Jalen Hurts struggled. And again, I think and I don't know every issue in Philadelphia. I don't know what was going on in their locker room. I don't know what was up with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, whoever and whatnot. Yeah. And again, Paul, very good point. There's players and there's quarterbacks who have great stats, but I wouldn't put them in the elite category. What I'm talking about more about Hurts, Mike, is the fact that when you talk about elite quarterbacks, you want to see it over the course of 2-3 seasons to put them into that level, And again, from the time Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes were both in, okay, they've progressed every year that they've played. Even when we thought that they were going to regress based on Tyreek Hill being gone, this guy being gone, they were still able to find ways to win. I mean, everybody, you want to talk about a bad wide receiver room, Sean? Talk about the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver room last year. Who did they have? Nobody. They won a Super Bowl with nobody.
Nobody, and it's just gotten worse.
Yeah, and they had nobody. And now Rashee Rice might not be playing football next year, depending on what happens with that. So they have nobody. They went out and got Hollywood Brown. But last year, they won a Super Bowl with third-string wide receivers. But what did they have? They had a great coach in Andy Reid, and they had the quarterback. So, again, I ask, is the wide receiver the thing you build your team around? Does it help your elite quarterback? Does it help all quarterbacks? Absolutely. Absolutely. But
I don't think anyone's saying that you're building around a wide receiver. No one is saying that. We understand you have to have a quality quarterback. But if you don't have that marquee receiver, it is definitely not going to help you in any way. I mean, even the Raiders had Devontae Adams. You know, they didn't do they almost made the playoffs. You know, I don't understand how that's going. And you know, so you do need that receiver. I mean, can you name one team that made the playoffs who didn't have a marquee receiver? Well, yeah, you can. Kansas City.
Kansas City. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but they're playoff.
Well, they made it. You asked me if I can.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
yeah. Well, Pickens is good when he decides to play and not block.
Again, I still need to see Pickens with the real quarterback, and we haven't done that yet.
Well, who knows? This year you might.
You could very well. You very well could. So again, but you know, and that's it. I just look at teams as a whole, and I just say to the people in Buffalo who were crazy this morning that pump the brakes. Stephon Diggs is a loss. Absolutely a big loss. No doubt about it. But, I would love Hunter Renfrow, but he's not a number one. You're absolutely right. Not the core. I would if you put George Pickens in Kansas City, Corral, he'd be fantastic. He would be a number one, no doubt about it. I just haven't seen it. And the only thing about George Pickens that I don't like is he has a diva attitude without having the opportunity to have a diva attitude. And that is my issue with George Pickens. To me, George Pickens is the kind of guy, if he goes to a team and he's not getting the ball thrown to him 15 times a game, that he's going to be an issue. He's going to be a locker room issue. Same with Diggs, same with, whoever those guys are. So that's my only problem with George Pickens is he's got to be a team player, and he hasn't got that yet. Maybe that's because of the quarterback. Maybe it's because he doesn't believe the quarterback. No, Gabe Davis went to Jacksonville. So yeah, right now our wide receiver room consists of Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins, Curtis Samuel, Justin Shorter, Andy Isabella, and KJ Hamler, and some other guy. Oh, and Justin Shorter. So again, but we have a plan. And again, it's April and March. You do not win, and you do not win your season in March and April. You win it between.
No, but you take your first steps there.
You win it in September through January. And so again, like I said,
no one, I would hope no one yet is proclaiming that they're going to win the Super Bowl. I think Eric does that just to mess with you guys. I think he does it just to mess with you guys. But this is where it starts. And where you like, we have all these pieces, we just need this. And then you start getting those pieces. I mean, Houston fans got to be going nuts right now. I mean, they probably have one of the best off seasons I've ever seen a team have.
Who's that?
Houston.
Oh, yeah.
They've crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, thinking like, okay, Jets, who we got to worry about? Maybe Miami. You got to worry about Kansas City, of course. And now all of a sudden Houston's in the picture. You're like, oh, okay. Then you got to worry about, Ravens, but at least in April, you can start having some hope for your team. Mm-hmm. And typically as a Jet fan, you have the draft and that's like your hope. And then after that, it all falls to shit. You're depressed anyway. So, what other stuff happened in the last week? There was other things. I know that.
Carson Wentz signed with Kansas City, which is
Yeah, I like that.
That was a good move. And again, I've said it for 2 years, 3 years, and everybody laughs at me because I said it when the Bills signed Mitch Trubisky, and I go, that's what playoff contender teams and Super Bowl aspiration teams do. They go out and sign quality backup quarterbacks. Okay. Yep. And again, looking at Carson Wentz, he's not going to be a starter anymore. You're not bringing him in to lead your team to 15 victories and a Super Bowl appearance. You're not that's not the point. Just like Mitch Trubisky, you don't bring him to Buffalo to lead your team to 15 regular season wins in the Super Bowl. He's there if your quarterback gets hurt and you need to fill him in for a game or two. And that's it. And that's all you want out of your backup. And a quality backup who can at least keep you in games that maybe can determine whether you make the playoffs or those points in there. And that's what those good teams do. I think the Jets tried to do that, but they couldn't get anybody to trade for Zach Wilson. So I want to see what the Jets do there because, again, with the New York Jets, you talk about the Jets having hope. They're a torn Achilles away from Aaron Rodgers to being the same Jets they were last year. Great defense, and they can't do anything on offense.
Any team that the main quarterback goes down for the season, you're kind of done. But the Jets got Tyrod Taylor. And he's a hell of a lot. I would rather have Tyrod Taylor behind center than Zach Wilson.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
They need to trade Zach Wilson. I don't care if they get a couple of commemorative salt and pepper shakers from the 1963 KFC. Just get something for them because they're not going to get anything. Maybe if they get a 6th round, I would be surprised. I'm surprised that if they don't trade him, and for some teams, going to be like, well, if we get any compensatory picks in the next 3 years, you can have them. These are like, 500 round guys.
Yep.
No, Paoli, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're talking.
Okay, Paoli. Eagles winning the Super Bowl, baby. Yeah.
Not going to happen.
I don't know. And me being a Cowboy fan, and we have our odds and we have our bets and we do our thing. And I think they have improved. I think AJ Brown is your problem. I think he may be a Bill. I could see him going to the Bills for a 2nd round pick, but then you're going to be in the same position where now you don't have a number 1. So, you got the running back. You picked up some good defensive player. When you got Huff, I was really upset, but then I got Reddick out of it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not upset anymore. This is not the same player. We definitely got better on that one. You guys got a great shot, and I would love for you to come on this program and talk about your Eagles because we need more people to get on here and talk about their team so we don't have to sit and listen to 1 hour of the Bills bullshit. So into Huff, Barkley, CDGI, XL, P, and White. Okay, you guys had a good one. Do I think that it's going to be enough Super Bowl for a Super Bowl run? Well, you made the playoffs last year. You can't do much worse. You're playing in a fairly weak division because there's not that many NFC teams that are so fantastic. You could do it. I just don't. I don't feel that I think the Eagles were exposed last year, and I don't think the coaching has changed enough for them to not get taken advantage of again. And they were so dominant for so many games that all of a sudden they found a weakness, and then everyone exploited it, and then you went down the tubes.
Keep talking for a second, Sean. I just got to check something.
Okay, no problem. No one wants Wilson. You are correct. No one wants Wilson. I don't want Wilson. I wouldn't hire him to clean my house. Unfortunately, you all know how I feel about certain divisions in college and stuff like that. I don't understand how a guy from BYU can go number 2 in the draft in today's day and age. I know certain players look so great in college, but playing in the college and playing in pros are two different things. Unless you're coming from a major division, the SEC, Michigan, and like Ohio State, they're what, Big 12?
Hold on.
But a major division of that nature, I just don't like, because of the lack of competition. You're only playing against one person who's of NFL caliber every year. It's not a game. It's not every 5 games. It's once a year. So Sierra wants him. What? Wilson? Okay, I can take that. So now that David has left me all alone, he usually takes up all the air in the room. What would you guys like to talk about? Anything in specific? If not, I'll just go on about Stephon Diggs trade because I don't really care about it. Oh, Josh Allen, nice one, Paoli. I like that. Green Bay's wide receiver room. Oh, wow, that's a good one. Watson is still a great receiver. Is it possible that who are they going to bring in the first round of the draft? They really say linebacker, but Green Bay's wide receiver room, I think they've already got him there. Christian Watson, he's just got to stay healthy and perform, and they do need to bring in someone else to help him. Everything okay there, David?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to talk to that was my boss calling. But no, I actually love Green Bay's wide receiver room. I don't think they need to add anything to it. They just need to get Christian Watson's hamstring healthy. I think between Devontae Wicks, Jaden Reed, and if Watson's hamstring, if they can get that healthy, their wide receiver room is set. And then you add a Brandon Jacobs, or not Brandon Jacobs. Oh my God, Josh Jacobs. Brandon Jacobs played in like 1990 or 80, whatever. But with Josh Jacobs added to the running backs in Green Bay, I like Green Bay's team, and I love Jordan Love. I don't think you really need to do anything wide receiver wise. I think a lot of their needs are more defense than on the offensive side of the ball.
Didn't they lose Reed?
Who?
Reed's the one who's with Samantha Miles,
Jaden Reed
right?
was a rookie. Jaden Reed was a rookie last year.
Okay, I know they lost one of the receivers. I
No,
know Christian Watson's still there.
The last guy they lost was Alan Lazard.
No, they lost whoever. Oh boy, this totally emasculates me. Whoever is with Simone Biles, he's gone.
Owens. That's their safety.
Okay.
Owens was Aaron Jones they lost, but Owens he's a safety.
Okay.
He went to Chicago, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just weird in that division too. All of a sudden, people are going to interdimensional teams. I know. Divisional teams.
There was a lot of that this year, but no, I really like their wide receiver room.
Yeah.
But they need work on their defensive front and their secondary. Green Bay, but their wide receiver room. I mean, Jaden Reed came out of nowhere. Yeah, that would have been a nice running back room. Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah,
that would have been.
I got to say something, man. I don't think them losing those running backs to get Josh Jacobs. I'm looking at it as a net zero unless they got, They got a discount somehow.
Did AJ Dillon re-sign with Green Bay?
I don't think so. I think they're both gone.
If he did re-sign with Green Bay, if AJ Dillon did re-sign, that's not a bad 1-2 punch either.
That is a huge 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Quadzilla?
Yeah. So yeah, Quadzilla. I mean, and the thing is, what's nice about that is Dillon's your inside guy, and what you call it, Jacobs can do both. He can run between the tackles, or he can get outside and he can catch the ball out of the backfield.
Catch it.
And again, I love Aaron Jones, but again, I think injuries caught up with him a little bit the last couple of years too, and I don't think. I think the problem with AJ Dillon, Corral, honestly, I think it's the fact that when Aaron Jones got hurt and AJ Dillon was thrust into being that guy, I just look at he's an Alexander Madison type of running back or a Tony Pollard type of running back. He's good in spurts, but he's not your number one guy who's going to get you 300 carries and do what you need him to do. He's the guy that you come in and he's your change of pace. And after your one running back beats you up on the outside, then you bring this guy in to ram you up the middle, and he does 2 or 3 times. Then you bring your outside guy back in. And so when you have to rely on that guy to be your number one, I just don't think that he is that guy. I think he fills a role, and he fills that role very well. I'll be right back.
All right, cool. So I actually have something to talk about that. So Dave, KD this weekend, Easter Sunday, we decided let's do a mock draft. It got delayed by an hour because Dave owns a Dell computer. So anyway, so we did this mock draft because we want to be prepared for our draft show, because we want to have everything prepared, because if we go through it live, it's going to take us forever. Now, we got this whole thing done, and we went through 3 rounds. And then after today and everything that's happened since Sunday, which is only Wednesday, it's completely changed. So the challenge I would like to offer all our fans, we don't have the moniker because I don't have control of that, but ftcsports1@gmail.com. Go on to pfn.com mock draft and fill out your first round of draft picks. And once we get them all, we'll go through them all after the draft. And for the first round of the draft, whoever had the most draft picks right will get a T-shirt from us. And we all kind of compete in this. I competed in it. Oh, and we all did the brackets, and I won because, these guys, they don't know. Yeah. I win. I picked the Super Bowl winner before last year. I got more picks right than anyone in the NFL season and won the championship. And I win the brackets. Is there anything?
Well, wait. Let me ask you this question though. Did you win the bracket? You might have won the points, but do you have the most correct picks? I think I still have the most correct picks, but I think my brackets are busted.
Yes, you have 39 picks correct, and I have 38. But
my brackets are done.
It's busted.
I'm busted. But yeah, if anybody watching the show right now would like to come on and our draft show that we're going to do on April 25th, first round, we're starting at 4:00 Arizona time, 7:00 Eastern time. We're going to do a draft show. We're going to have an hour pregame to talk about all the different teams and their needs. And then we're going to go right through the draft, go through the draft picks, do that. If anybody would love to come on the show, feel free. Let us know. We will send you a link We will get you all hooked up, and you can come on the show and you can watch the draft with us. You can go through the picks. We have instant reaction. So absolutely feel free, anybody, to come on. It'll be a good time. But yeah, so like I said, again, I'm as a Bills fan, I'm upset that we got rid of Stephon Diggs. I don't think that it's going to be the downfall that everybody seems to think it is, because again, I believe that my general manager has a plan, whatever that plan is. The one thing that this does do for Buffalo is it puts them in a good cap situation going forward. I think they've gotten rid of a lot of the contracts that were a hindrance to them. And even if we do take a step down this year, even if we take that step down, I believe that the future is bright for Buffalo. And yeah, now if Stephon Diggs asked for a trade 2 weeks ago and he got his wish, and that's cool. What is Eric's favorite saying? We want volunteers, right? And Buffalo's the same way. They want people who want to be there. And there are people who want to be in Buffalo. The fact is, he wore out his welcome. He wore out his welcome in Minnesota. He went to Buffalo, had success. He didn't get the chance to win a Super Bowl, and he wanted out. That being said, good luck. I hope you find your success in Houston. And I hope Buffalo does what they have to do to get back that number one receiver. Can it work without a true number one? It could. You'd have to change your offense. You'd have to rely on the run more. You'd have to rely on your tight ends more. But again, I trust Bean to do the things the right way and to get players who want to play here, whether that's drafting a rookie early and building him into that guy, because we've seen it be done. Justin Jefferson became a number one right away. He went from college. Yeah, you're right, George. I agree. I agree with that completely. And again, I also think as a Bills fan, we know how Sean McDermott has been reluctant to play rookies right away. And unfortunately, with our cap situation that we had to get through and everything else, I think that goes out the window, because you have to play young players. You have to do it. You can't let them sit behind and be number twos or threes on your depth chart. You got to start using them.
Yeah. My only problem with this whole thing, and God, we're back to freaking the Bills again. Can one of you make me a drink? We're Josh Allen here. So for what they got for him, they cannot really move up in this year's draft.
Sure,
unless, well, yeah, but you're going to mortgage next year. You don't want to do that. You want to keep that in your back pocket. So if you come in the middle of the pack, which I think they will, they'll come in the middle of the pack. So it'll be 15, 20. They can then jump up because they got a lot of picks, saved up. I mean, who's going to give up their first round pick to them? I mean, Arizona's not going to do it because they got 4 and 27. They're not going to let the Bills go up to 4. Chicago's
got 4 draft picks this year.
Yeah, they got 2 first rounders, but I don't think they're going to give up either one of them.
Why? Why? If you still get a first rounder, you get Buffalo's first round pick this year. You get a 4th round pick this year, and then you get a 2nd round pick next year. Or maybe even
you're going to tell me the Bills are going to pick one player in this year's draft except for rounds 5 and 6.
Why not?
Which is what?
Why not?
You need a lot more freaking help than that.
Why? Do you really? Every position, every position that we lost through Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, all those guys who left, we've filled. We've filled those spots. You trade this year's first, a fourth, a fifth, or a fourth, or 2 fourths, and next year's first to move up to number 9. You draft a Roman Duze, or you do that with the Chargers at 5 or 6. You give up a little more, and you draft that guy.
That would be
what are you really giving up? You're not really giving up. Buffalo has 11 picks, or now 10 picks in this draft.
Yeah,
so
you're giving up all your good ones. I mean, basically,
you're not.
You're going to pick the guy you want, and then you're not drafting until the 5th and 6th round.
No, so we still have a 2nd round pick this year. You ain't giving up your 2nd round pick this year.
I thought you said that Buffalo didn't have a second this year.
28. You give up pick 28. You give up a 4th round or a 3rd round pick this year, or a 4th round pick, or 2 4th round picks, and you give up your first next year.
Ugh.
Oh, we don't have a 3rd round pick, so we'd have to give up 2 fourths, a first, 2 fourths, because again, the Bears only have 4 picks.
I'm not taking to drop back to number 30 or 28.
Why not?
I'm not taking that 2 fourths and a first next year, because that's
why not? Too. Because here's the deal. You got your quarterback
first this year.
Hold on. You got your quarterback with your 1st overall pick. Okay. At pick 28, because you've already filled your wide receivers. You got Keenan Allen. You got DJ Moore. You went out and you got your running backs. You pick 28, you get more draft capital to fill your roster with holes that you have, so you end up with 7 picks this year in the draft instead of 4. Then you get your 1st round pick next year, so now you have 2 firsts again next year to do with what you want. And you're only giving up pick number 9. And you can fill out your roster. And there's still guys you can get, good guys you can get to fill out your holes on at 28.
Okay, well, you put that through PFN and see if the trade is accepted or rejected. I would bet they would reject it. The fact is, you are going to get your quarterback, and in number 9, you could trade back a couple of spots. I wouldn't trade only back to 28. I mean, honestly, there's a couple teams like the Raiders and other people who are going to need that spot to get a quarterback. They're going to give up a king's ransom for. So you're not even looking at the Bills. They're not going to offer you anything. Or even if you stay at 9, you're going to get a quality pass rusher. And that's what you need. The Bears can totally build from this draft. Unless they get somebody who's going to give them a king's ransom for that 9, I'm not listening to them. And the Bills ain't someone I'm listening to. Not to drop back to 28. Then next year, if they have a good season, what I got? 26?
We'll see.
All right.
We'll see. Bean likes to move. And Bean's moved up in the draft or down in the draft every year. He's pretty much never stayed where he's drafting. So it depends on what they're looking for. I mean, maybe they move to 15 if they need a guy like a Brian Thomas. Maybe if they want Brian Thomas, they don't have to move to number 9. Maybe they don't have to move that far unless they want like a Malik Neighbors and they really want to give up the farm and move up to number 5. But then you'd be given
unless they go up for the Vikings second first round choice, and the Vikings just want to drop back for 23 to 28, they could pick up a quality receiver. Maybe
it depends on it. I don't know. I think to get your quality number 1, you want to go up to probably 14 or 15. You want to be able to draft a Brian Thomas if that's the guy that you want. If you don't want a Malik Neighbors, depending on what you're willing to give up, depending on if your guy is there. And this is the thing about Brandon Beane in Buffalo, and that's what if they really value the guy, they will give up to get their guy. They will give their picks to get the guy they want, if that's the guy they want. And that's the one thing about Buffalo is Brandon Beane is very aggressive in the draft when it comes to, getting what he wants. If like Dalton Kincaid last year, let's make a trade with Jacksonville. We'll give them this and this because we want to move up 2 spots because we want Dalton Kincaid. We want to jump over Dallas because Dallas will take him if he's there. Let's go get him. And we'll give up whatever we have to get him.
Okay.
And that's why I think they did this trade, got the 2nd round pick next year, because now that's an extra value that even if they have to give up a 1st round pick next year and so on, they'll still end up with a 2nd round pick.
Okay.
But
I can deal with that.
yeah. But anyway, so on that note, yep, we're going to wrap up. We appreciate you guys coming in. Again, a big day in Buffalo. Diggs being traded. It was great talking about that. Thanks, you guys, for coming on. George, thank you. Obviously, I think this is your first time here. Appreciate you coming on. Again, we do a draft show. If you are interested, jump on our Facebook group, From the Couch Sports Talk Radio. Shoot us an email. Corral, same with you. If you are interested in coming on during the draft, we'll send you a link. Shoot us jump on. Let us know you want to come on, and we'll get you a link and get you all set up, and you guys can come on and talk about the draft with us.
Yeah, last year I think we had 10 people on during the draft live, which is really cool. So, everyone, come on.
Yeah, we have a good time, man. It's fun. Everybody has an opinion. We got them all, and it looks like it's gearing up to be an exciting first night of the NFL draft. So again, from me and Sean and Jeffrey earlier, thank you. We are From the Couch. We'll be back next week, hopefully with a full complement of our team, KD, Eric, Jeff, myself, and Sean. Y'all be good. Y'all take care, and thanks for tuning in.
Good night.